Welcome, welcome. Good to see all of you. If you can turn your cameras on, we'd love to see you. If you can't do it, we completely understand. Um, my name is Andy Engel, and I lead virtual public programs here at Reimagine. For those who don't know, Reimagine is a nonprofit organization catalyzing a uniquely powerful community. People of different backgrounds, people of different ages, different races, different faiths, people of no faith, all coming together to find solace in a world that feels alienating, disorienting, and often hopeless. We support each other in facing adversity, loss, and mortality. And we support those who want to transform life's biggest challenges into growth, purpose, and action. Um, I want to acknowledge Natalia Zuckerman, whose beautiful music we heard at the beginning of the Vigil. We're going to hear more from Natalia later. Reimagine's Candlelight Vigils began as a response to a need that we saw back in 2020. We needed more spaces to openly acknowledge and share our personal and collective grief. This is a candlelight vigil. So if you don't have your candles ready, I think now would be a good time to go get it while I talk a bit more. At Reimagine, we create opportunities, mostly in the digital space, where people can talk openly and freely about living and dying, about death and loss, about grief and sorrow, but also about joy. Um, if you're able to share something that happened this past week that brought you just a little bit of joy, please do that in the chat. I'd love to see what brings all of you joy. Um, and now for a little housekeeping um, about what kind of space this is. This is a collective space to grieve. This is a space that cultivates compassion for others and for ourselves. Most of us have arrived here with some kind of pain in our hearts, and our hope is to help people of all backgrounds create a more compassionate world. It's a space for bravery. It takes courage to show up for others, especially folks we don't know. And it takes courage to lament and to grieve in public. And with all that's going on in this country and around the world, now more than ever, people need access to gatherings where they can express themselves. Let's choose to respect and welcome everyone gathered here today, regardless of religion, regardless of nationality or ethnicity. Finally, I want to say that this space is not perfect. We might fumble, we might falter, we might offend, so we ask for your grace. And now, what kind of space this isn't? It's not about blaming. It's not about imposing belief systems on others. It's not about providing solutions. It's not about fixing things. Another thing I want to emphasize is that although this is not a political space, it is a space to cultivate social justice. Our colleague Mazen Jamal has offered this definition of justice. It's an environment of integrity and wholeness, achieved through healing and transformation. When justice is present, we can trust that our safety and our well-being are valued in a community and society. So that's our aspiration for tonight. So what's going to happen in the next 90 minutes? We're going to begin with a candle lighting ceremony. And after lighting candles, we'll hear from our guests, Tasha Faruqui and Colin Campbell, and some other special guests. They will be in conversation for about 45 minutes. And after that, Natalia will return and lead us in our honor ceremony. That will be your moment to enter the names of loved ones or things you're grieving in the chat. Then we bookend the vigil with candle extinguishing, and after that, we'll make some announcements. and we'll say goodnight. Now, I'd like to invite my dear Reimagine colleagues, Derek Hosberg and Nicole Tan, to help lead the candlelighting ceremony with me. So we're going to grab our candles now and light them. By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
By lighting our candles, we mourn division, terrorism, murder, war, trauma, hatred, and all that is disconnected from love. We honor our personal dead, the dead across the world, and all of us still here together.
Okay, we're going to stop the screen share. Go into gallery view if you can. Let's take a look at this lovely group gathered. And let's just take a moment together. More light. I'm looking at the chat now. I just wanted to share some of the joyful stuff before we proceed. Good news from Judy. Her daughter had surgery and she's much better now. Joy from cats. Ooh, a Norm Lewis concert. I love Norm Lewis. Hanging out with loved ones. Going out to a larger social event for the first time since son Maddie died in 2021. Dinner with small group from church. Joy from a granddaughter. Norma says, I witnessed a man, I'm assuming a father, lift a baby girl into the air with so much joy on both their faces. It reminds me that joy still lives. Amy said, had a visit from cousins this past weekend. Another creature, this time a dog, a chihuahua. Thanks everyone for sharing. Okay, now it's my honor to invite Colin Campbell and Tasha Faruqui to be in conversation with one another. A few words about them. Dr. Tasha Faruqui joined the National Health Service following graduation from medical school. Her plan was to take over her father's medical practice, but the plan changed when Tasha's second daughter, Soraya, was born with a rare genetic disorder that remains largely a mystery 13 years later. Tasha's focus then shifted to pediatrics, with particular attention to advocacy and support for patients of medically complex children and those with a limited life expectancy. Today, she regularly brings her dynamic message of fierce and loving hope to medical students at Cincinnati's Children's Hospital. There, she was named a top doctor by Cincinnati Magazine in 2022, 2024, and this year, 2025. And you can follow her and her family, the Faruqui Five, on Instagram. Her debut book is Keep Your Head Up. And it's a beautiful, beautiful memoir. Colin Campbell. Colin is an Academy Award nominated writer and director for theater and film. He has taught theater and filmmaking both to university students and to incarcerated youth. His book, Finding the Words, Working Through Profound Loss with Hope and Purpose, was published 2 years ago. This grief guide has helped so many other bereaved parents, and it was the book he never wanted to write. In 2019, his gorgeous, funny, and beloved teenagers, Hart and Ruby, were killed by a drunk and high driver in the California desert. May their memories be a blessing. Earlier this year, Colin participated as a speaker in a Reimagine series designed by and for bereaved parents. Colin leans into pain, as well as ritual and creativity, to navigate incomprehensible loss. In addition to writing his book, Colin wrote and performed Grief, a one-man shit show. It premiered at the Hollywood Fringe Festival and then ran for a month in New York. He lives in Los Angeles and sometimes Joshua Tree with his wife, Gail, and the two teenagers they are in the process of adopting. Welcome, Colin and Tasha.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And it's just an honor to be in conversation with Colin.
Yeah, and an honor to be in conversation with Tasha. Yeah. Hi. I asked you earlier how you were doing, and you were like a little frazzled.
A little frazzled. So my new memoir just came out September 16th, and I've been in the midst of book tour. And so just traveling and, while traveling, also meeting people that have been a part of our journey. And I think that there is just waves of emotion that come up when meeting with people that I once knew when my life looked very different, and just everything that kind of comes with that, while also caring for Soraya and kind of managing everything at home has been just a roller coaster. But that's really what life has been like for a chronic state.
Right, right. I'm so excited to be in conversation with you. I've got all these questions for you. I do want to also just acknowledge that there's so much grief in this room, right? There's so many people are also grieving their own losses or anticipatory loss, or so that's what's obviously bringing them here. So I'm honored that they're all coming to hear us talk about grief. It's a tough subject, right? But yeah. So congratulations on your book. I love it. Everybody get a copy. It's really beautiful, and it's so generous of you to you tell it all in the book, right? You really all the ups and downs and you're not trying to make yourself or anyone else look extra good. You're giving us the raw truth of what it's like to live for years in this unknown with and then getting a terminally ill diagnosis for your child. It's so, I imagine, so difficult.
Yes.
Yeah. Should I jump in with some questions?
Let's do it.
Okay,
And I
great.
want to just let people know that if they are purchasing the book, that we are donating all proceeds to the book to organizations that are near and dear to our heart. And that's something that Soraya and the family really wanted to do. So I just want to put that out there.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. So there's so many things here that just really both resonated with me and then also didn't, because it's a very different grief that you're living with and that I'm living with. Thank you. And I thought I'd start with the notion of being undiagnosed. And you write that it's a way of making families feel even more isolated, unheard, and unseen than dealing with a chronically ill child already does, because there's no support group to join, special colored ribbon to wear, 5K to run with other people affected by the same disease. And you're still living with that, right? There's still not a diagnosis.
Well, recently we were able to find the gene that is likely the cause of her symptoms. The tricky part of that is there's only 50 cases in the world, and she's the only one with the most severe symptoms and the only one that has needed a ventilator. And the thought is because her gene deletion is so large, it may be the reason why her symptoms are so vastly different. So it's one of those things where as soon as we had come to a place of acceptance of never finding out uh, a diagnosis or a cause, here we have an answer. It just may not be something that we can do anything with. However, our hope is whatever we can do to help other families, even if it's a matter of being a part of a research study or having myself connect with other families. The nice part is being able to kind of cling on to this gene has allowed me to reach out to people that are in the labs that are working on,
Mm.
discovering more about this gene as well as talking with other families. But there is a little bit of a disconnect on why the symptoms are so varying.
Uh, yeah, but is there also just comfort in or just for the own sake of sanity that there's something to point to as opposed to having nothing to point to?
There's absolutely some sanity and some reassurance that there is something to point to. And, here's where the honesty and the rawness comes in. I think
Mm.
one, in thinking about something genetic, there's also this fear of, was it my fault? Was it my
Mm.
husband that carried it? And while I would never blame him, there was always this internal fear that what if it was maternally inherited? And then the fear of what if the other 2 children that I have are impacted by this gene or their future life planning? So there is
Mm.
this relief in knowing that it's a spontaneous mutation. So, it goes back to, and you talk about this in your book, like realizing what you don't have control over. And not that if it was my gene that I have control over that, but there's
Right.
this like little reprieve of like,
Mm.
okay, this is completely random, awful, terrible thing, but it wasn't my fault. And so that is
Mm.
something that I had been struggling with internally, although have never said out loud. But this is what I like to do is kind of say all those awful thoughts out loud in the event that somebody else is feeling the same way, and then they won't feel so alone.
Yeah, yeah. That thank you for sharing that. That is so raw and honest that you just said you never said it out loud that it might be your fault. And I feel like from my experience is that the brain wants to find a way to make us at fault. And that guilt is so much a part of so much of grief. No matter how the person dies or died or whatever their situation is, the survivors so often their brain will find a way to blame themselves because I think partly because it's so scary to acknowledge that we're not in control. Because obviously if it were what you said, your greatest fear that it was inherited from the mother, that doesn't mean it's your fault, right? That's still a random crazy thing. But we want to blame ourselves, and it's so challenging, right? The guilt part.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And that brings me to a question, which is, it's interesting that Soraya's both her parents are doctors, so it's kind of like I don't know but just almost extra outrageous that here she is with 2 doctors as parents, and still there's no answer for so many years. And you talk about in your book how you're obviously very sophisticated at navigating medical situations and hospitals and doctors and nurses, and you already have so much medical knowledge, and yet you struggled to figure out what's going on, or even just to manage all this. And how do people who don't have your background, how do they handle that? But I want to specifically ask you about how has it changed you as a doctor?
It has definitely changed me as a physician and how I care for Soraya and honestly my patients. I think, in thinking about how you said it's, outrageous. I call it ironic. Here we are 2 physicians and I'm a pediatrician at that. My job, my identity, what I had planned in my life was to take care of children and to have a child that I and my husband could not, quote unquote, figure out while being at one of the best children's hospitals in the country and having the resources, I think, was very challenging. And I give you that background because that experience and that lens really impacted me at work. For a
Mm,
very long time, I kept my private life and my work life very separate, and that was also one of these raw feelings that I haven't shared very often, and I think one of the greatest things about writing this book is really just being transparent that I don't have it figured out just because I wrote a book. It's actually quite the opposite. This is the
mm,
mess that I feel, and I am still evolving and learning. But the one part that really was holding me back from sharing with the world is what will my patients think if they know that their doctor can't even figure out what's going on with their own child, and now I'm gonna
wow,
trust them with mine, and nobody has ever said that to me. My patients are incredible, but this is this inner critic that I had been carrying with me, and it wasn't actually until Soraya entered hospice that I really had to take a step back to realize that I was never two separate identities, that truly I've always been one person, and I've always had the lens of a physician and a mother in every aspect, and the parts of being a physician that make me a great physician actually had everything to do with Soraya. I
mm,
mean, I would love to say, "Oh, it's my medical knowledge," but it's actually the care and the time that I take with my families because that's what I have always wanted with Soraya. There had been so many situations that I wish that could have gone differently in interacting with her doctors or waiting on a test and the doctor says they're going to call you back and then you're like waiting by the phone and people get busy. But when you're the person that's waiting for that call and you have so much hope and so
mm,
much pressure from what this call could mean, I make sure that when I tell a family that I'm going to do something that I follow through. I make sure that I ask that really, uncomfortable at times question of "How are you?" But with a long
mm,
pause, like, not
mm,
like the niceties of rushing through. And one of the other unique things I do with my patients that have complex kids is when they come into the room and I first greet them, I oftentimes will say, "Do you need to use the restroom? Do you need to get a drink of water?" Because I know when I am rushing around from appointment to appointment, I'm barely getting out the door. And it's so hard to use the restroom when you've got a wheelchair and you've got equipment, and then you bring everything with you. And
wow,
these are these little things that I would almost subconsciously do while the patient is experiencing something very unique, because it's not something that as physicians we're trained to do. And in a system that is demanding more patients in less time, it's a system issue. It's really hard for physicians to keep up with that.
mm,
However, I know that I what brings me joy in my job is doing medicine in this way. And so for that, I truly feel that I practice different and I'm finally at a point where I mean everything is public now and there's nothing to be ashamed of, that at the end we're all human and my relationships with my patients, if anything, are just in such a deeper foundation in talking about all the ways that their child is impacted. And that has to do a lot with the family. And it's such a beautiful way that this struggle has allowed me to see and to interact in this way.
wow, that's amazing. Do you mean to say that like in writing the book, that's when it sort of turned that now you tell your patients your situation, or they know about it because they know about the book, or
Great question. I would say that up until I started writing the book right when Soraya was going on her Make-A-Wish trip, and I
Mhm.
found myself not telling families why we were going to Hawaii or what this trip was about, and I found myself holding back on saying Make-A-Wish because then that's gonna bring the questions of
Yeah.
like, well, and then or the shock or crying or I had no idea. And I also really want to honor their space. Like they are using this space, and there's this professional relationship that we have. So
Hmm.
I oftentimes don't and wasn't outwardly sharing until it comes up. And so if I'm going to be gone on a Make-A-Wish trip, I slowly started sharing there, but then it's very much like, how much do you share? What do you not? And I mean, you talk about this in your book, which is really helpful as far as like a script or a spiel. And
Uh-huh.
I would practice that with my therapist. Like, okay, like what is your three-liner? Because not everybody reads the messages through, the account that goes to their inbox.
Mm.
But I would prepare something and I would practice it, and I would practice saying it and not feeling it. And so this was a skill that I worked on so that way I could share. I'm on a leave of absence right now, and I felt very I wanted to be honest with my patients. I didn't wanna say I'm just taking a leave of absence, and I think that's very particular to the person. What I
Hmm.
did and how I did it is not necessarily what I think everybody should do.
Yeah.
This is how I did it, and looking back, I can't imagine doing it any other way, or why would Dr. Faruqui be taking 6 months off? And
Mm.
I think that I said it, so then it's almost that interaction when families come in, like, they know, I know, or it'll be at the end of the interaction, and they'll say, "I follow you on Instagram," but I
Oh,
typically
wow.
wait for them
Yeah.
to bring it up, because I really wanna honor their space and their
Right.
time, and they're paying me for a service, and I really want that time to be about them.
Yeah.
However, I truly appreciate the love, and I think it goes back to the roots of this book, which is when we expose ourselves, it allows for really genuine connection, and you find that we're all struggling. So whatever, impression that they may have of me is maybe very different. And different is not good or bad, but it is just different. And so, going
Yeah.
back to, what came first, me sharing or the book, it that kind of came along together. I knew that if I was going to be writing a book, it will be exposed. And
Right.
I think that is kind of took away on how it went, meaning that I created a community on Instagram to talk about anticipatory grief, and that was because I didn't have that community. And so while I was writing, I was also having this community. And so both were kind of happening at the same time. And slowly people picked up on it. And now that I'm talking about it so much, I realize that it's not only healthy for my intent, which is to help other people, but it's been so helpful for myself. It's been
Yeah.
so helpful for my family. Think there's a unique perspective of what a parent goes through in this space of anticipatory grief, and how am I gonna be an example for my 2 neurotypical children that are experiencing their grief. And so if I kind of create these 2 parallel lives and keep them so separate and compartmentalize them,
Mhm.
and I'm also modeling that for my children, which may not be my intent. So it's almost like, well, I can do
Mhm.
that, but you can't, like,
Right.
and so teaching them to find strength in their story, that this is a part of them that we can't deny. And for better, for worse, for strength, for sadness, that we all don't have to talk about it, but we have to acknowledge it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely that, there's no should in this process of grieving, but it does seem that I think a lot of people struggle with this. I mean, you're like an extreme case because you're literally a pediatrician talking to other parents. So as you said, it's a professional situation here where they're paying for your service, but anybody in grief has that question, right? Do I say who I lost? Someone asks you whatever it is, how many children do you have, or are you married? Whatever the situation is, how many siblings do you have, and the person who's grieving has to wonder. And I think a lot of people have fears about sharing, fears that they're burdening the listener, that it's going to be difficult, and I think it's beautiful that you're talking about it to your patients and finding that it actually helps deepen the relationship. Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Speaking of your family, it's so inspiring. I follow you on Instagram. I'm a fan. It's so inspiring to see the Faruqui Five in action, and I love in the book what you said with the motto of suck the joy out of life. So first it was embrace the suck, and that didn't seem quite right, and then you changed it to suck the joy out of life, and it's wonderful, but of course it's easier said than done, right?
Absolutely. I think it, came from it's very aggressive. I mean, it's a very aggressive kind of statement in the sense of it really shows the intent and how much effort it takes
Mm,
when you are in a constant state of grief and sadness. Like how do you get there? And we started by getting motivated by big things, big trips, big concerts, and as Soraya's health has changed and her abilities to do things that we can all enjoy as a family have changed, so have our joys. And we
mm,
are constantly shifting what that looks like. And I think that can be tricky. And when you say, that is the challenge, when we used to have dance parties 3 times a day,
mm.
and now that Soraya's not getting up to do that, how can we do it? So sometimes it's like shoulder shrug and everybody else is dancing, or like a finger dance, and it's a way for her to participate, but it's not the same, and it still brings joy. And so still finding ways to do that has made us try to be more creative, and we're still doing that, and we are still consciously and intentionally trying to find things that can bring us joy and give us
Yeah.
something to look forward to.
Can I ask? So I know about the dancing. I've seen videos and read about it. But do you have other rituals, other like family ways of sucking the joy out of life? Anything, tips you could share?
Yes, and again, I do think things are evolving and changing.
Mm,
We typically get a cabin in Hocking Hills, which is not far from where we live, and it's just being in nature. And so we actually don't really do anything. We sit together in a different space, and
mm,
it feels different. It feels lighter. I do think that the aesthetics of our home as Soraya's health declines has an impact on all of us that is kind of unspoken, that we don't realize until we're physically in a different space. And
mm,
it's just we feel lighter, granted it's harder for my husband Safi and I to like lift Soraya if we're at a place that, doesn't have accessibility, and we will do the carrying and we will do that. However, it makes a difference on all of us, Soraya included. So even if it's a little bit of a hardship for us to make those things happen, it is a constant that we always go to Hocking Hills, and then we also always go to Lake Michigan. I grew up in right outside of Lake Michigan in rural Michigan, and so it's a piece of home. But there's just something peaceful about watching water, and so even if Soraya is tired to go out in the water, which is something she used to do, the fact that her sisters can go and Soraya and I can sit inside and watch the lake is still a beautiful thing for us to find joy. We also love making s'mores, and so that's another thing that we do. And so those are things that we do, throughout the year. As far as daily things, having dinner together, it may be very short. It's even having a meal together has been something that has brought us joy. And then
mm.
traveling to a bookstore and or makeup store as a family have been our new ways of finding joy. And I think the other thing is if a routine or ritual is not working for you and doesn't serve you anymore, that it's okay to change. And I think that has
Mm,
also been hard because there's been this sadness and letting go of what we used to do.
right.
But sometimes it's painful to do that same routine because it just makes the change even more obvious that I try not to get stuck. Again, I don't know what's right or wrong. But for us, I say, okay, so every Christmas, the
Mm.
girls like to dance to All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey. Soraya can't do that anymore. So it's okay to let that go, and we do something different. And so those are the things that have been changing and evolving. However, again, I think it's okay to still feel a little sad that we're letting go, and to constantly come up with something new or adapt or modify is hard, is really hard. Our last trip was to Georgia as a family, and we thought it would be easier to drive. And now we've
Uh-huh.
learned that it's hard when Soraya's getting tired to stop every couple hours to have her use the restroom and to get in and out. And it kind of hit all of us. Like we thought that, going to dinner 5 nights in a row was doable, or even going shopping once a day was doable. And we realized that, okay, if we get 1 to 2 meals total together, as far as like eating out at a restaurant, that's going to be our win. And so we're constantly reevaluating
Mm.
what is our set point and what can make us happy. And something we came up with was all of us picking family bracelets. And so we took like a moment to go to an air conditioned mall, and we all got family forever bracelets.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's beautiful. We all wear it. But one of the things that Soraya always says is, once I die, will we still be the Faruqui Five? It's something that
Yeah.
really bothers her. And so our thing is, we'll always be the Faruqui Five. And so it was something that was really meaningful, but not something that we had planned for decades and decades. It was in the moment of sadness of not being able to have meals together, or realizing that we have to do meals even earlier before Soraya falls asleep.
Mm.
We could do this. And so it's a lot of stop, pause, pivot, and go for it. Put
Yeah.
things in action.
Yeah. 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 What a hard conversation to have. Oh, you have many hard conversations as a family, right?
Yes,
Um,
nonstop. Some would say too many. So again,
uh-huh.
I think it's also really to acknowledge that each one of us may have different set points of what your capacity is. I think the other thing that I've learned is, as much of this is my story and how I have dealt with this. I think the other part of it is how hard it is to watch your other parts of your heart grieve too, as far as how my husband grieves and how that is different than how my other two grieve, and then how Soraya is grieving, and
Mm.
how hard it is to witness them grieving while you're grieving, and we're all grieving, and yet we still have to live. Like, we have to keep going. There are days that okay, maybe every day, that I want to like just hide and never come out again. However, I have these lovely humans that are with me, that they're the reasons that I must get creative on how can we do both.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, uh, I want to ask one thing that you wrote that hit home to me personally is I'm going to quote you here. Let me see where it is. Oh, yeah. You wrote, "The world, and specifically your family, doesn't owe you anything for your hardship." And it hit home for me because, as the introduction said, my wife and I we actually have adopted two teenagers, and and on top of the grief, it's like we're bringing new people into our home, and there's challenges, and it changes the family dynamic, and maybe the whole family didn't exactly sign up for all of this, but like and you specifically talk about, again, getting very real, how when you became I think you became pregnant with Lena, I think, right? And she said I'm out. Like, I can't do this again. And that like hit you like, oh, wow, this is, we're the nuclear family, but the extended family is impacted. We're all on this journey together.
We are. I think that that has been, I mean, all of this is hard, but it's almost like you still, maybe it's our brains, right? We try to anticipate how other people will react. We try to count on or reassure ourselves that, of course, our family is going to be there for us. As far as our extended family, you think about the promises that people have made when you weren't in the situation of like, oh, if things ever got bad, like I got your back. And I've hung on to that. And I think that, at the end of the day, I do think that everybody is trying to do their best. But I oftentimes tell my girls, when something unfair happens or somebody leaves their life without any reason, that I remind them that even though the world is watching us and people all know what we're going through, that doesn't mean that they owe us anything, that they have to go out of their way because we're struggling, that bad things can still happen. And it has been I think that's, I mean, all of it's hard, but that one has been hard, specifically lately. I think
Mm.
that has been really tough. And I know this is a safe space, but in thinking about caregivers that have been with us. We had one that had been with us for 4 years,
Oh,
family, and ghosted us.
oh,
And it is been such it's been bigger than I could imagine. Again, I think we're always trying to figure out or prepare, right? Like I am a preparer. I'm very much want to be as prepared as I can. And I wasn't prepared for that.
oh,
But I also realize that grief can do weird things to people in the sense of, what do you have capacity for? What comes up for people if they can't process it?
mm.
And the only thing I can say is these things can still happen to us even though we're struggling.
Right.
I don't but I there isn't a reason for everything. I don't know the reason, and it just sucks. And so if there's one practice is practicing our grief skills. Um, and so I go with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. We're not immune to new losses.
No, I wish we were though. I really
Right.
feel like if we had a punch card, like we should be done. We should be done. And I think that is so challenging, or other health scares, or even
Right.
in, not only how people in our family or our presumed family may deal with what's happening with Soraya, but just in how how sorry, I lost my train of thought. Just how you also grieve how you can be for others, meaning that I think about even what my parents are going through. I'm not the daughter that they probably imagined at this stage of their life because I don't have the capacity that I would have liked to, right? So there might be some grief
Right.
in that where they're not having their retirement life that they may have imagined because their adult daughter is very consumed in caretaking and her own grief, that I can't show up in that way. So many times I feel like my husband and I are grieving like, "Oh my gosh, I wish I could be a better sister. I wish I could be a better brother. I wish I could be
Mm.
a better daughter. I wish I could do more." And it goes both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So much guilt.
I know. I'm unpacking that with my therapist. So I do want to say, I agree. This is in your book as well. Guilt does not serve us, but it is something that I naturally gravitate towards. It's something that I'm actively working on, and I'm a huge proponent of mental health. So I have um, no hardship in sharing that. I'm a big proponent of therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. And how is Soraya doing today?
Soraya, well, she's asleep, which is why she's not joining us. She goes to bed very early. She is in a slow decline, but is declining as far as like how is she from a spirit standpoint and um, like in her day to day. I would say she has her sparks of joy and her spirit is fierce, and she's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
She loves getting her nails done. She loves WWE wrestling. She loves connecting with people. So it can be a complete stranger if she has the ability to sit with somebody, or when we have some peers that we have like a sign up genius where people can come and just sit with her. She will engage. It does not matter if male, female, grade older, younger.
Wow.
That's her spirit. I think what is challenging for some is that she likes to talk about her experience a lot. And sometimes that can overwhelm others. So she likes talking about her fear of death.
Yeah.
She likes talking about not wanting to leave the family, but feeling like she'll say, every day I feel like my time is ticking. I know it's getting shorter. And then really like pointing at each one of us like I want to make this better before I leave. I want to make this aspect better. So you talk about guilt. Like
Wow.
she's 13 and she is trying to make amends with
Wow.
everybody and everything, and she's like, I just want to do my job to make an impact. How can I make an impact in a short amount of time? And I tell
Wow.
her, you are. Like, I share comments with her. She doesn't have her own Instagram account. I always ask her permission to post, and she actually, if if anybody has the pleasure of meeting her, once they meet her, they will see that the things that I put on Instagram is me actually holding back. Like, if she could have her own channel all day long, she would be talking about, what she thinks happens when you die. She would talk about her connection and spirituality. She would talk about what her ideal situation would be with each family. She would talk about how we all need to be kinder to one another and being an advocate for those with disabilities. And so this is kind of where she's at, but she's also really angry. She's really angry that her
Wow.
body is failing her. And she will say, I am losing everything slowly. I am losing the ability to walk. I'm too tired to take a shower. I can't even talk. My mouth gets tired. And then she feels guilt for getting angry. And she's like, I feel that monster. That monster's coming out again where I just feel so
Wow.
frustrated with how I'm feeling. So she has very complex feelings and still just exudes so much love.
Wow. Wow. That's extraordinary. That's extraordinary that, a 13-year-old can be so articulate and so deep and so engaged in something that's so hard for adults to cope with. I'm so sad that she has to cope with that. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
If someone
Tasha,
mentions, oh,
hello.
oh,
I
hi.
wanted to insert myself just for a little bit because I could keep listening to the two of you for much longer, but I did mention some special guests that we have,
Yes.
and I wanted to invite some members of the Faruqi Five to join us as well. We have Yasmin Faruqi and we have Safi Faruqi live, who are going to join us and share a few words. And we're going to get to hear from Soraya in a recorded video soon. So I just wanted to welcome Yasmin. I wanted to welcome Safi. So welcome.
Hi. Hi, it's so nice to see you guys, live as it were. I have some questions for each of you, if you don't mind. So I know because I go to Compassionate Friends, which is a national organization for bereaved parents, grandparents, and siblings. So I hear from siblings, and they have I think a unique perspective or take or issues with grief and grieving, and they say like they'll be asked, "How are your parents doing?" So they sort of their grief gets like sidelined. So I'm wondering, Yasmin, how do you feel about that? Yeah, I guess how do you feel about how you're treated in this world? Yeah, that's my first question.
So actually, that's a great question. I got a lot of opinions on that because, when it comes to in case my sibling who is dying, it is the main focus that a lot of people want to ask is how is the kid, how are the parents? Because that is what people's immediate focus is, which I can understand how that happens because it's like the parents are watching their kid die, but it's also a matter of what about us? Not to say what was me, but like what about me? I'm watching my sister die. Like it's obviously like it's even worse because I'm her older sister, so she should be seeing me die first, if anything, and we should have to bury our parents, and my parents and I should not have to bury her. Um, that's really hard, and a lot of times when people ask how I am, it comes after the question of how is your sister. Then I get asked, well, how are you? So the first thought is always my sister, which I can appreciate the empathy. But it's also a matter of her death is not going to just affect her and my parents. It is going to affect an entire community of people. And I'm not saying people have to ask about like, well, how's your neighbor doing? But more of a how are you doing? Because I'm a part of her nuclear family too. I am her sister. And if anything, like my parents will tell you this, like Soraya and I have a very special bond. We are very, very close. So it hurts in a lot of ways when people kind of dismiss my feelings regarding that because of how close I am to her and because of how much she means to me. It's almost like well, like I'm a part of this picture too. Like I'm feeling things too. Um,
Hmm.
so like I've been kind of trained not by my parents. They've done a fantastic job in making sure that I feel heard. But like just like society as a whole, more like trying like I've been kind of conditioned to like put the focus on my parents' feelings and Soraya's feelings, but like my feelings do matter too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a beautiful message. I love that you extended it to your community as well. It's not just the siblings, it's the larger community that's grieving her loss or anticipatory loss. Okay, one more question for you, Yasmin. So your parents are focused, right, on Soraya a lot. They have to be. She has like immediate needs. How do you navigate that? Your own needs. How do you get mom and dad's attention?
That's actually a great question. So over the course of my life, and I'm very proud of my parents. I just want to say that there is no book in this, there is no path in this, and so obviously everyone makes mistakes, and I know that my parents are not perfect, except for my mom. My mom's perfect. It's like a running joke in our house. It's a running joke in the house.
It's a joke all the time.
All the time.
When I make mistakes.
Dad loves it.
I'm perfect. So when Soraya was first born, like a lot of the focus was on Soraya, and I think my mom talked about in the book and how she wished she could go back and change something. So like my early experience with Soraya was like that of a little bit of resentment because I had a childhood up until I was like 3, and then like I was like 2.5, and then everything changed, and then I was kind of pushed to the side for a couple of years. And in like growing up, once we moved to Cincinnati, like I got into therapy, and like my parents like did their best to try to like communicate with me. But it wasn't until about like the Make-A-Wish trip that my parents started to see kind of how much we are all affected by this, especially when my sister's health like took a turn. It was kind of like we're all we got. We really have to focus on every person in this family and not just trying to get by, but trying to thrive. So in terms of how I got my parents' attention, I mean, I have been fortunate that they've never ignored me, and they've always tried to make sure, even if they're busy with Soraya, they will try their best to make sure they have some sort of time for me. But I'm not going to lie, it is hard because I grew up feeling, and this is to no fault of my parents, it's just a matter of the situation, that I was less important than Soraya, even though my parents did everything in their power to like try to make sure that it's not how I felt. Like I have like one thing they did that I've never been in charge of any of Scott's medical stuff. They have never put any of that on me. Starting when I was very young, they're like, "You're not going to be doing anything. We do not want you to feel like another parent, and we do not want you to feel
Wow.
like you." So that there's that, and then I really do feel like it has gotten better in terms of how I feel, and I've also recognized that I am not less than Soraya. I am just as much a part of this family, even though her struggle is very different than mine, and her impact is going to be different than mine. I still have my own impact to make on this world. Like, just like about my goals and ambitions, I plan on making big changes in this world. I want to make big change. I want to leave a good, giant, fat mark on this world, and have my name be remembered as somebody who made great change. So, but like that's just that's what I want to do. But that's not. I am who I am because of Soraya. And so all the things I'm going to be doing, obviously she has some sort of influence on it, but I have to remember I am my own person. And I think
Right.
the course of time, as I've like grown up and be like, I'm 16 now, like I'm going to be an adult in 2 years. Like as I've like grown into my own person, I feel like my parents' perspective has changed on who I am. And they're like, I really am an individual separate of Soraya as well.
Right. It must be hard identity-wise.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so hard. I actually, I work with an organization called Siblings with a Mission. I'm part of their leadership team. But like the whole idea is like finding a community of siblings and understanding that we are people outside of our sibling. Even though obviously Soraya has like will always and has forever changed me as a human and has made me who I am and created so many good qualities in me that you really can't get anywhere but experience. I also understand that I am my own
person. Nice.
Hopefully that
okay.
answers.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I have a question for Safi, a tough question. So, so your wife writes beautifully about you in the book, and she talks about you as her rock, right? As the steady, like grounded person that she can always count on. And she talks about a moment where you fell apart, right? It was during the pandemic. There was, many increased dangers to Soraya. You had like a shift in your work. There was economic insecurity, and then she counseled you to look at therapy and medication. And you at first were like, you never thought of yourself that way because you didn't think you had struggling with childhood issues. You're a man, and I feel like this is really relatable to me, and I think it's relatable to a lot of men in grief. I think a lot of men in grief feel like they're supposed to be the rock. They're supposed to not need any help. And I think it's very hard for men to ask for help, to get help. Can you talk a little bit about that journey for you?
Without a doubt. So I think that one of the things that I think is very important to kind of realize is that each one of us deals with the heavy stresses of our life in a different way. And I think that society tells most men to be like, okay, your role is X, Y, Z, and P, and this is the way you're supposed to do stuff. And I think that I am, my personality wise, I'm a surgeon. I'm very much type A when it comes to like how I approach things. I'm a fixer. So for me, it's like, well, okay, well, I got this. I'm going to figure out a way to deal with this. And I think that one of the things that was hard to realize is that you actually only have a certain amount of control. And outside of that control, you have to surrender. If you don't surrender to it, it actually will take over every and consume every part of your life. So, like, to give you an idea, like before I started therapy and before this, I was under the absolute impression that the only person that's going to solve Soraya's problems, either me or Tasha, like I love our medical team, right? But who's going to be invested more in this child's outcome than me and Tasha? So in between surgeries, I would read articles. I can't even tell you, I probably read 2,000 articles about metabolic disorders, about things, because I was going to find the one thing that was going to save my daughter's life. And what you realize is when your mind changes and that's what it turns into, you can't be mindful anymore because everything about what you do is based upon trying to solve a problem that truly doesn't have a solution. And so like we finally got to the point where, between the pandemic and like I was, my personality type is pretty laid back, but like when it came down to like we were getting to the point where I just wasn't who I was. Like I didn't like who I was. I was becoming edgy. I was becoming frustrated. I was becoming short. And like I pride myself on not being a typical orthopedic surgeon. I actually pride myself on being like, like more laid back and chill. And so like it was a combination of, Tosh coming up to me, the girls coming up to me, and my best friend from med school, who's like my brother, who and I were both in the military together. He went through a horrific deployment when he was doing critical care and had a horrific PTSD from him in his Afghanistan tour. And like everyone was saying the same thing, like, look, you got to get help. Like you can't do this yourself. Right. And so like when I finally surrendered to that, I realized that once I started therapy, like how annoyed I was with myself for not starting it years before, because you have this mentality where you think the therapist is going to tell you what to do, but the reality is all she's doing is giving you tools that you just don't know how to use yet. It's no different than teaching somebody how to fish, right? You're just teaching them how to do it. They still have to do the work. You still have to go and do what you got to do. And I have found that over the years, like my therapist is an essential part of me. It's an essential part of what I do, because there are things where I need to run things by her that is going to be not with Tasha, because she and I process things and do grief very differently. She and I do and process what's going on in our house very differently. Like we are on the same page for pretty much every large major decision, but how we get to that point is very different. And that's okay. Because I think that the one thing that I think that the book, I hope people really get, like I'll give you a real life example from today. Tasha does not know this because I haven't talked to her yet. So I was in the docs lounge today, and one of the surgeons that he's in my practice, I don't know him that well. So he actually came up to me. We're just the two of us in the lounge, and he's like, "Hey, I finished your wife's book." And like he had come to Tasha's book event, and like I don't know him that well, but he's a super nice guy. And so I was like, all right, man. I sat down. I was like, give me your Yelp review. I want the actual, like, give me the honest truth. Just because like Tasha's not gonna want anything other than honest truth, right? So like, and like this is a guy, very type A alpha male. He starts crying in the docs lounge with me. And he's like, listen, I know you know this. Like I lost my dad like 2 years ago to ALS, and like I was really close with him. And like the book really hit home on multiple levels. And that Safi is like, I know there's no words to say. These are his words, not mine. He goes, but I'm willing to sit here and just sit in it with you. And that statement is profound, coming from somebody who does not. He told me he grew up. His parents and him and his mom don't talk about his dad's death. They lived their whole life just shoving everything under a rug. So like for a person like that to open up, to be like put himself in a space where it's like we can actually talk about this, like it really affected me. But it was like it made me so happy that he is in that space, because I don't think that we allow ourselves in our society to get to that space where like constantly just wanting to fix something. But the thing is though, like, and he and I talked about this, like I told him, I was like, in tears, me also, I was like, thanks for sitting in this with me, Adam. Like, because both of us just fix things all day. That's literally how we're wired. But this is not fixable. You losing your dad is not fixable. But it's okay to sit here and talk about how much that sucks. It's okay to say and talk about the uncomfortableness of this is not great. This is okay. And there's nothing to really fix. But thanks for the hug. Thanks for the time. And that's it. And I think that without therapy, without me being on meds, without me allowing those things to help me, I don't think I'm there. I don't think I'm in the same spot. I don't have that conversation that I had today with Adam. And the reality is, I'm really feel happy that I did, but that took work to get there.
Right. Yeah. I think our culture is grief averse. People avoid it. And that's what's so beautiful about your book, Tasha, and the way you as a family are moving through it is that you are talking about it and you're sharing it. And I think it does a great service to the wider world, who very often are going to be encountering people who don't know what to do with grief and grievers, and they shy away from it, and they think it's supposed to be something secret, and it leaves other grieving people feeling very alone. So yeah, thank you. It's very beautiful.
Let's hear from the final member of the Faruqui Five tonight. Nicole is going to cue up the video. We're going to hear some words from Soraya that she recorded especially for us. Thank you, Nicole.
Soraya, we are going to miss you at the Reimagine Vigil. What would you like to share with this very special group when it comes to grief and what it means for you?
Since I'm a disability person, like, I am dying, sir, and my Mr. Main passed away. Like, he was not my teacher, but he was like around the grade school, which is like more. But he passed away on a Monday morning, and I went to his funeral, and I visited him. That most people would do, but I did. Yeah, I've been through a lot.
Do you think you will always miss him?
Definitely.
Does that surprise you about grief?
That, I don't know. It's hard for me to focus on it. Like, it's difficult, but I think even I'm mad I got it doing this to me, but it is what it is at this point. Like, grief is very unexpected way sometimes.
Definitely is. Should we honor Mr. Main for you tonight?
Definitely.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Soraya.
Yes, that anytime.
Anything you want to share about your life and how you're feeling about the family?
Well, there's a lot of things, definitely, but I've been struggling with my older sister. My parents were working on it, but she keeps doubting herself, and I don't know how to help her. It helps, but I think it's hard for them to talk about death because of that grief. And my mommy does an amazing book about grief, and it's amazing. And hopefully, like, everything goes well. But grief was supposed to be here no matter what, so can't change that.
That's right. Thank you, Soraya.
Of course.
Thank you, Soraya. Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you, Safi. Thank you, Tasha. And Colin, thank you for leading this beautiful conversation with this family. We're going to transition now to the second part of the program, the honor ceremony. We'll definitely be thinking about Mr. Main for the honor ceremony. And now I'd like to invite Natalia Zuckerman back. Natalia Zuckerman is a queer Jewish musician, a painter, a journalist, an educator, a cartoonist, a trauma-informed yoga and meditation teacher, a cultural diplomat and community organizer. This woman's a polymath. She's also my friend and my neighbor. She has recorded 8 albums, toured with and are open for Janice Ian, Ani DeFranco, Richard Thompson, Sean Colvin, and Dar Williams. I think the Faruqui Five are pretty excited because I know how important music is to their lives. And so Natalia teaches songwriting privately and at Northeastern University. She's the arts editor and cartoonist at the Millerton News and the Lakeville Journal in the Hudson Valley of New York and Northwestern Connecticut. She's a contributing writer for Acoustic Guitar Magazine. She's a part-time caregiver for her mother and a full-time mom to her dog, Georgie. Welcome, Natalia.
Thank you. What an honor to be here. That was so wonderful to listen to you all. Thank you. Colin, you're just really a masterful space holder. And beautiful interview, and your family. Wow. I just want to jump in there and cuddle with you all. I would say that's weird, but I think everybody does. So I'm going to share a story I wrote first and then play a song. Is that right, Andy? Yeah. Okay. So my mom has Alzheimer's, and that is why I moved to this area to be her part-time caregiver. So this is a story from a few years ago. Sometimes you get this faraway look and your face becomes almost holographic. The first time that happened, it was my birthday. We were at Kripalu, a yoga retreat center in Western Mass, where I'd been going for several years, every year on my birthday. That year, you came with me. After we checked in, I left you by the snack bar and went to the bathroom. I remember that because it was the first time I had left you somewhere you didn't know your surroundings, and I was worried that you'd wander off. I knew that if that happened there, though, at least you'd be safe and I'd find you. So I went to the bathroom near the entrance, and when I came out, I saw you standing just where I'd left you. I started to walk back towards you, and you were staring at me, not watching me so much as trying to understand what you were seeing. I could tell that you were watching this person, me, that you had created, walking towards you. You were in between dimensions, back in time, here and not here. Your face started to contort ever so slightly, not in pain or frustration, but with these micro movements that I'd never seen before. Suddenly, I was having a reciprocal experience, and I almost didn't recognize you. Bobbing slightly, your head moved back and forth in space as you tried to take me in. You didn't take your eyes off me as I walked the corridor towards you. When I was back standing in front of you, you blinked a few times and shook your head. I just had the weirdest experience, you said, coming back into the room, into your body, into your face. I thought you were me, and I was watching you walk toward me. I know, I said solemnly, and then I joked, always trying to lighten the mood, and I said, how did we look? We spent the day going to yoga, walking the paths, perusing the gift store, and eating the delicious food together. I don't remember if we talked to anyone else. I only cared about you. Before we left, we decided to walk the labyrinth. On your morning walks, which you've taken every day since I can remember, you once took me up the hill behind your house and showed me that at the top, at the four-way intersection where two country roads meet, before you turn around to come back down the hill, you bow to the four directions. You told me you were never sure why you did that, but you just felt like it was the right thing to do. I knew you'd like this labyrinth and the slow, deliberate, and mindful walking meditation that it engenders. We entered the labyrinth. You stood a few feet in front of me. We walked, each of us in our own space, and then the first turn appeared. The Fibonacci spiral of design occurred, and now I was in front of you. In step and in rhythm, we walked. The moment was enormous to me, the idea that you had taught me to walk so many years before, and on this, the day of my birth, here we were, circling around and beside one another. I wondered if you were thinking about that too. But then you started to sway and shimmy and quietly giggle. You were dancing. So I began to copy your moves. Arms curved right, hips left, footsteps out. Arms curved left, hips right, footsteps out. The fog was thick, the giant trees quietly observing us as we turned and meandered, me in front, then you. I sent all my love to you then, every fiber of my being radiating forward, and I felt it come back, circling and spiraling in between us. As back and forward lost meaning in the meandering maze, I felt as if my body was inside of yours. I was returning to a womb of your protective love and holding us both there. I was a part of you again and still. I have never left. I was you. You were me. I am you. You are me. We entered the central circle at the same time and bowed, first to each other, then to the offerings in the space, Buddhas and notes, stones and sticks, buttons, a junk drawer of wishes. And then we turned to leave, walking slowly, one in front, one behind, returning just the way we came. This is a song. You know, with so many folks, it's like the way they're going to measure someone's decline in dementia is, does she know who you are? And it's like, it's just not like that. Sometimes I don't even know what you are means, it's this really kaleidoscopic experience. So this song is about the sort of timeless spacelessness that I'm in with her a lot. We already know how it ends, so let's not rush this part. If you're doing something right, it's bound to leave a mark. So break wide open, take a look inside. Maybe being scared is just finding new ways to be surprised. Find me now that I'm not lost. I'm on my own path, learning how to walk. Find me, I've been here all the time. I'm flashing open, open, I'm a neon sign. Open, open, open. Open, open, open. Open, open. If someone at the hospital calls, then I'll know I missed my chance to walk you home, and I will break wide open, and I'll see you there. You've been gone for so long, now you're everywhere, saying find me now that I'm not lost. I'm on every path, I'm in your heart and in your thoughts. Find me, I've been here all the time, flashing open, open, open. Open, open, open. Flashing open, I'm a neon sign. Ooh. So maybe let's just take a collective breath together. You can breathe in and out. Beautiful. And do I get to invite people to do this? Wow, what an honor. Oh my goodness. So the chat is open, and it is a space now to share a name or an experience, something that you are anticipatorily grieving or in the process of grieving now. Same.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, everyone who participated in the chat. Thanks again to the Faruqui Five. Tasha, we're going to bring you back soon for the candle extinguishing. So if everyone could grab their candles, that would be great. Natalia's going to start by reading once, then Colin, and then Tasha.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor today and tomorrow and for the rest of our lives.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor today and tomorrow and for the rest of our lives.
By extinguishing our candles, we release light into our world to keep alive hope and the memories of those we honor today and tomorrow and for the rest of our lives.
Okay, and now if we can go to gallery view again. On the count of 3, we can blow out our candles. If you want to keep your candle lit, that's okay too. So 1, 2, 3. Thank you all. I'm going to ask my colleague Derek Hosberg to say a few words about something new and exciting in Reimagine Land.
Thank you, Andy. And thank you for putting together such a wonderful program tonight, and to all of the speakers and singer and all of it. It was a really beautiful experience to be part of. I'm Derek Hosberg. I'm the program director at Reimagine. And I'm going to share a bit about what we've been working on, sort of more behind the scenes, and a new program that I am launching at the end of October that you're welcome to sign up for. We know how powerful live gatherings like this Vigil can be. We also know that your experience doesn't end when the event does. And it's why we've been working on something new, a space to return to after moments like this one between events, so that you can keep the momentum going, deepen your experience, and connect with others in the Reimagine community. Our new platform offers a space where you can continue your Reimagine experience either on your own or in community through social journaling. And it's still in pre-beta, but it's being built with care and intention to be there for you when you need it most. We have research-backed social journaling features that guide you through your journey in ways that truly move you forward. You can share your own journey through guided prompts, reflections, creations, dreams, and the small, sweet steps that move them towards actions. Engage with the stories of others, ones that may guide you on your own journey, and support one another by holding space, slowing down, engaging authentically, and sending meaningful intentions. And so we have a new feature called individual pathways, which are self-guided reflection pathways grounded in post-traumatic growth. And we're now accepting beta testers in this pathway. This first pathway that we're launching is called Reimagine Life's Challenges. It's a free and powerful journey through that includes wisdom from beloved teachers and creatives like Thich Nhat Hanh and Oprah and Elizabeth Gilbert and others. And by joining this pathway, you'll be able to explore guided prompts rooted in reflection, creativity, and action, navigate and transform your emotions, track your personal growth over time, hold space with others on similar journeys. And it's designed for anyone who has experienced loss or adversity and is looking for new ways to heal, grow, and reconnect with meaning. I think Nicole will be pasting the link where you can sign up to be a beta tester. And if you're already a Reimagine platform user, this link will take you straight to the pathway. The program that I'm launching is called Turning Pain and Grief into Growth. And we're only inviting kind of select people right now from the community, including people that are attending our vigils. And what this program is a 10-week guided online group experience designed to support you in living more open-heartedly, intentionally, and ultimately more fully in the face of loss and other types of adversities. And this program is designed for anyone who has experienced loss or adversity and is just looking for new ways to heal, grow, and reconnect with meaning. And the program, I'll say it's like, people may ask, is it a grief group? And it's partly, but it's an educational uh, experience, both kind of more directed and also self-directed. And it includes self-reflective activities and group discussions that support you in turning your aspirations into tangible steps. And everyone in the program works on a growth intention or project designed around meaningful personal goals that are sparked by your experience of loss or adversity. And you do this within a very supportive, nurturing space. It's a guided facilitation experience, and there's me and my co-facilitator Mingda, and then you'll also be put in your own peer directed breakout groups. And all of this happens on Zoom, and you'll also be using the social journaling platform during the sessions as well as outside. And really, this program is designed to help you reflect on your story, explore resilience practices, and cultivate growth. And I recommend, if you are at all interested, tomorrow I'm hosting an informational session that's just about 45 minutes long. It's at 2 p.m. Pacific tomorrow. And I'm actually going to have some of the past participants speak about their experience. And I really think that's probably the best way for you to get a sense of what this might mean. But I can say, having run now several different groups, the type of transformation that I've been able to witness and even experience in myself as I've done this program is quite moving. So I hope you'll join us, and we're putting in the link where you can register. And I think, and I'm not looking at the screen, these are just some of the testimonials of people who have participated in the program. And if you can't join the info session, I would say just go ahead and sign up for it, and you'll get a recording of it. But you also don't need to attend the info session to sign up for the program, which we're also putting in the link. And there's a sliding scale to make it as accessible as possible for folks. And it begins on October 30th.
Thank you, Dara.
That was a lot of information.
A lot, and I've got more, but we're late already, but I'm going to try to be efficient about this. Finally, please tell us what you thought of this experience. Nicole's going to paste in the chat a survey. We'd like to know what you liked about it, what can we improve, what your interests are. And the survey also contains an opportunity to donate if you are inspired to do so. While this experience is still fresh in your mind, please start filling it out. And we're going to bring back Natalia to play a little bit of music while you are filling out the survey. That would be great. Oh, she's frozen.
Oh, no, I'm not. I just,
Okay.
I was like, now?
bit about some upcoming events we're doing. Nicole, if you could share screen again. We have Room for Grief on October 16th. This is a peer-led drop-in group that meets every third Thursday of the month. We leverage creativity and prompts to foster conversation, pathways for those looking to process and navigate all kinds of loss and struggle. Tony Sam, aka Butterfly, will be our facilitator. Next slide, we've got Wisdom of the Hive. Register now. This three-part series kicks off in 2 weeks. Michelle Cassandra Johnson and special guests explore themes in her new book called The Wisdom of the Hive. We're often asking, how can we save the bees? Michelle suggests that perhaps the real question should be, how can the bees save us? With that, we can learn how to improve relationships with our friends and communities, with the world at large. In times marked by grief, chaos, and uncertainty, our connection to bees offer a powerful example of turning pain and fear, of turning towards pain and fear, committed to better conditions for all beings to survive, building a sweeter future where all can thrive. We've got luminaries from the fields of wellness, science, spirituality, and the arts, panel discussions, sound experiences, visual meditations, and tools. Hope you can join us for that. Next week, we'll have a virtual meet and greet for Reimagine collaborators. That's on October 15th. We have special guests and opportunities to learn about what's ahead. Also, we've got Reimagine collaborators who are hosting events around Wisdom of Life. That's the next slide, Nicole. We are also hosting a Navigating Holiday Grief program. It's an all-day virtual retreat. This is for those of you who find the holiday season particularly challenging. And finally, our next vigil is on November 5th. Keep going. One more. Thank you. We've got celebrated poets James Cruz and Kai Coggin. And we'll be celebrating James's new poetry collection, Turning Towards Grief. Register for these events using the link in the chat. And Nicole will also share a link also. You can learn about becoming a Reimagine collaborator. You can host your own events, your own workshops, your own gatherings, your own conversations on our platform. And that's it in terms of our programs. Natalia, thank you for these beautiful tunes. And before we go, we have this tradition of putting everyone off of, they'll be able to unmute themselves. Let me just figure that out. Hold on, because we're going to shout something. Normally it's love, but today I think we should shout joy. So hold on a second. Yeah, I'm allowing you all to unmute yourselves. Okay, go into gallery view. Here we go. 1, and we're going to shout joy. 1, 2, 3. Joy!
Yay!
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.